Let's go. Live reaction show, Locked On Badgers. Your host, Ryan Herrings. We're going to talk about the big win against Purdue. Let's give Jim Leonard a 10-year contract. Lock it up. On Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Again, live reaction show, therapy show. We're talking Purdue. Big win for Jim Leonard, Wisconsin homecoming weekend in a game they, quite frankly, dominated. Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code Locked On. Get your first deposit doubled up to $100. And we're going to get right into it. Let's get Justin on the show, and then Adam, Rajiv, Mark, a couple. I see Cincy Badger in the queue, a bunch of people in the queue. Leave your comments in the comment section. We're going to get to them as always. I want to start here really quick because I have a quick rant that I want to start with. ESPN, you can listen. I welcome our new CBS overlords for the Big Ten.
Yep.
First of all, I don't need to see SMU Cincinnati kneeling down for a minute and a half while there's a real Big Ten game going on. I'm sorry. Screw off with that. And if you're going to put it on an app, get your app running. For Pete's sake, it's 2022. I can live stream cats like running to the refrigerator. If I can't live stream a Wisconsin-Purdue game, I'm sorry. Like
the feed for this should have been ready 15 minutes before game actually went live. When it got down to 5 minutes left in, like, say 2:25, the feed for the Badger game should have become live.
I don't need
just make it live. Like, what does it hurt? It's effectively pushing a button on their end, I'm sure, to switch it between where they're putting everything through.
That was a joke.
We missed 14 points in game.
We missed 14 points. We missed the greatest 5 minutes of Badgers 2022
That's
football.
so fitting, isn't it?
Right.
The most productive part of the entire team this year.
I was losing my mind. I had a computer and my phone up trying to get the app to work. And again, just low key, you don't need to watch every second of a game that's over if they're kneeling down and running the clock. Nobody cares. Yeah. SMU and Cincinnati fans don't care.
It's like they were expecting to be a fumbled snap on the kneel down with
I don't want to
30
belabor
seconds
it.
left.
Yeah, like, I don't want to belabor that any more than that, but that was so frustrating from my end. All right, let's talk game. We got comments already coming in. If you have comments, leave them in this comment section. Really appreciate it. I see Rajiv, Adam, Mark, Jeff, all in the queue. We're going to get to everybody. This is a really good game, though. Justin, like, where are you at? Like, overall, like, this is a huge win.
Overall, this is a big win for us. It was good to see the energy and the gameplay rebound from where it was last week, where it was like, what are we doing? I feel like the coaching kind of let them down on the offensive side of the ball last week. Like, it feels like we overthought that one times a million. Like, we're facing off against the worst pass defense in the Big Ten by far, one of the worst in the country. Let's get cute with them, and we'll run the football to keep that defensive line.
I feel like you're talking about last week.
I am, but my point was coming into this week,
session, Justin.
We rebounded. We rebounded this week, and we were aggressive again in the passing game. What happens? We march right down the field and score a touchdown. And what does that do to a defense when that's the way you come at them to start a game? You put them on their heels. Now they can't just pin their ears, sit there and start bringing guys on run blitzes and everything else. And they're like, okay, now we have no clue what they're going to do. And if you look at the early part of this game, the first half, Mertz was 5 of 5 for 80 yards, 81 yards passing on first down. We were really aggressive on first down. Yeah. It's like we're really productive on first down. Why? Because the defense can't sit on him then. And a lot of times they're still sending run blitzers. So if they don't get home, there's not enough guys in coverage. We have guys running wide open, which is why you see Skylar Bell have a big game.
Yeah, I agree. And we're speaking of Skylar Bell, this is a great segue. We're going to bring Rajiv on the show. And again, if you're in the queue, hang tight. We get to everybody, I promise. Rajiv called a big game for Skylar Bell. Although you also called Purdue winning.
I did.
I did as well. So
I did.
But you called Skylar.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, he looked great too. And I wish I would have been able to see the opening touchdown because also I had the same problem. My goodness, but whatever. Yeah, really good to see. And that's kind of what we talked about yesterday. Look, couple of quick things. We were able to get that push offensively on the O-line. The O-line didn't have a great game. They gave up a sack against a 3-man rush in the second half. I don't like to see that. But
and not only that, they had 2 free rushers with only a 3-man.
I mean,
what
really
is going on?
But it was good to see the yards, right? I mean, Allen got yards. Garendo got a great touchdown. It was good to see that. And that set up the pass. Love the play calling out of the passing was great again. I really like seeing Mertz roll out, you know, and he's confident. He likes to throw on the run. So now he's rolling out to his right. He's got DK, he's got Bell, he's got option routes. He can read the corner and then make the pass appropriately. And he did that for the touchdown. He did that for a couple other times. So really, really good to see that. The D gave up 17 points. They didn't give up 24. They gave up 17. That was the worst refs I've ever seen ever in a game. But so they played better. And, we talked about yesterday, Ryan, if we hold Purdue to in the 20s, that's a great win. That's a great game for us. And we did that.
Oh, yeah. So O'Connell had a terrible game. He was really frustrated in this game. You could tell.
3 picks.
Career high, I think, on picks. Yeah. Some of the bad that I thought today, of course, mentioned giving up the sack against 3-man rush is no good. But man, we got burned on those seam routes all day. They were just all day seam routes. I'm like, hey, listen, guys, can we figure something out? Can we change something? But got to give credit to the cornerbacks compared to what they did against Michigan State. I mean, I thought Alexander Smith had a couple good big plays. I thought Chase Shaw had a couple big plays.
He's clearly the best corner we have.
Yeah.
It's really not close. He was a glove on was it Johnson for them?
Jones,
yes.
Yep.
He was all over him. Like every time he caught the ball, it was a tough catch, and he was right on him. And that last pass interference call was a joke.
I mean, look, as a defender, you have a right to the ball. I mean, when did that stop? When did it stop being an open ball for anyone to catch? It's not just for the offensive guy to catch. Right. Come on now. I mean, that's silly.
With these referees, like that was the word, and you touched on it. I want to go here really quick, and then I want to get to some comments. I want to keep all 3 of you on. We're going to bang through some comments, and then we're going to go to Adam next in the queue. Adam's a longtime listener, multi-time guest too, awesome guy. But I just want to point out the refs robbed the Badgers of a great goal line stand. Goal line stands are like the coolest thing a defense can do, right? And that Badgers defense,
it was legitimately not
that
close.
Third down stop with Turner on the tight end. I thought there was no way they were keeping him out of the end zone. Yeah. And then they stopped him on 4th down. That was an incredible defensive stand. And I was tweeting during that moment, the Badgers defense was playing with so much heart, so much fire. And they got absolutely robbed. Absolutely friggin' robbed on that call.
How did you feel about looking over and seeing your coach actually blow up when a bad call is made? He was angry.
Right. I mean, and you know what? It's so many bad calls. Like, I mean, even on Purdue, like the offensive, the intentional grounding on Aiden O'Connell. What the heck was that? Yeah. The offensive PI, was it Eschenbach or Franklin? I don't know which tight end it was.
It was that. It was offensive pass interference. And at most, you could say he dragged his arm a little bit back through, trying to kind of pick the guy a little bit. But it was not enough. It wasn't enough. Yeah. The contact there was incidental. It's not like he just stood in the guy's way.
The most egregious part about this, and then I want to get to some comments, because, again, this is another point I don't want to spend a ton of time on. We all agree it was horrendous. But the most egregious part of it is things happen quickly. Like, I've reffed basketball. Like, refereeing is actually a hard thing. Yeah. People really crap on refs. But you can't, in any possible scenario, go to review and look at that call and still get it wrong. That's the egregious thing.
How about don't call it, and if it's legit, then it's going to get overturned.
But also the other thing is they said on the broadcast, well, the booth said they didn't have a clear angle. You had a shot down the line. How much more of a clear angle do you need in football? It's on crazy. The line.
No, that's one of the worst calls. And Scott, who's on the show a lot, he can't make it tonight, but he texted me right after. He's like, listen, that call's not going to really end up mattering, but oh my goodness. And it's absolutely horrendous. Let's bang out some comments quick. Definitely want to get to everybody in the comments section, and then we're going to go Adam, Mark, Jeff. I see all you guys in the queue. Let's go Nathan Ruffalo, who, he's been really with this on the show for a long, long time. Torture playing first team All Big Ten football. He looks like Ronnie Lott. I had a buddy text me. He's become Ronnie Lott. Yeah.
His tackling could be tightened up a little bit, but the guy has a head for the ball.
Yeah.
There's no doubting that. He's very good at getting in places. And like they showed on how he basically set up Aiden O'Connell on that play for the second pick. It's like, nice. All right. That's what I like to see.
I will say this really quick on that second pick. The announcers didn't talk about it, but Muma had great pressure. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the few times I thought our inside linebacker blitzes worked. I thought for the most part, that was kind of useless today, the inside linebacker blitzes, my opinion. But on that
most
one,
of our pressure seemed like line pressure in this one.
Muma blew that one up. O'Connell had to rush, and then to your point, Torchio made a great play. Nate,
it was nice to see the line pressure that we were getting, and I think that the overall aggressiveness that we had on defense really showed. Torchio obviously was a big driver of that, but everyone was one level forward. They were really pushing up aggressively, and when you hold Purdue to 24/17 points, I mean that's impressive.
Yeah, and Mitchell, by like another person who watches the show a lot, we're not going to talk about officiating anymore. We hit on it, but his last point is why I want to put the comment up. Score was not that close. Agreed. Like the score wasn't that close in this game. You had the fumbled punt, and then you had that incredibly terrible fourth and goal call. Like Wisconsin controlled this game. This is not a 35-24 game. Let's get Adam on the call quick. Adam, what's going on, my man? Thank you for joining the show again.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. So feeling a little better than last week at this time. But if we're going to look at this big picture, if you were thinking back on October 3rd, hey, Wisconsin's going to be 2-1, and the loss is a double overtime loss in East Lansing. I think we would all take that, don't you think?
From the Jim Leonard transition, yeah.
Yeah, based off of how we were playing at that point in time, I think
that's a great point.
And I mean, we were just down in the dumps after last week. We were just throw it all away, just pack it up, just move on to 2023. I felt the same way, but 2-1 going into the break here. And I think everybody in that program is going to be able to take a deep breath. Okay, what's it going to be like moving forward? And man, that energy from Leonard on the sideline was great. That should be 4th down stop. Everybody, the game was over, but there was still some pride in that Badger defense, and that wasn't there in September.
That's a great point.
It hasn't been there for a while. Adam makes a really good point. I mean, that drive and that defense, we haven't seen that all year. We haven't seen that since, and we're used to seeing that Wisconsin defense just push forward and drive. And that fight was there. It was really nice to see. And yeah, your comment about Jim Leonard, I love seeing the coach get into it. That is so nice to see. I mean, how many times did were we watching a Badger game and we're saying, Paul Christ, talk to the officials, say something, make it happen. So
that stuff matters. What happens is if an official makes a bad call and they get called on it by a coach, like they start to worry about getting called on a bad call again by that coach. So it creeps. It's human nature. It creeps into it. Nobody wants to be criticized on a call that is a legitimate mistake.
Yeah.
So it does mess with you.
And
go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
There's a swagger to this team. There's a real swagger. I mean, there's not much for, celebrating, but you feel like they know they're better than you. And that's the way Wisconsin football should be.
Well, the receivers are legit. DK and Bell are both legitimate above or top end Big Ten wide receivers.
Let's talk about really quick Bell breaking. He is really underrated in the open field, right? Which is probably why they go to jet sweep action with him a lot. But even just catching the ball, he's very difficult to bring down. It's unique because he's not a big dude, but he runs with some anger. He runs with some East Coast toughness. He's a Connecticut guy like me, so he brings some of that East Coast toughness.
Yeah, that must be it. The tough, mean streets of like Greenwich, Connecticut.
I love it. But Rajiv was right. Like he is difficult to bring down. He's explosive. This is a great receiver group by Badger standards.
Oh, they both are. I think Bell, his ceiling might be a little higher than DK in terms of because of his explosiveness. I do think he's more explosive than what DK is. I think you can make the argument that DK from an all-around tool standpoint might be a little higher, but he doesn't have quite the burst. We've had games where either one of them are a problem. I mean, even in the Ohio State game, I thought of the two wide receivers that Bell was the one that actually showed up more.
And that was the thing that we had to attack today with Purdue. We had to attack their secondary, and we did that really well. And that's exactly why Bell had a great game. So kudos to them.
Well, DK has great hands too. So that's probably the thing that separates him. I do have to take a quick break. I have to take a quick break just to get to some of our sponsors. We're going to get back with a few things. Continue taking people in the queue. We got Mark, Jeff, Chris, TJ. Great lineup of people as always. A bunch of comments to get to. We're going to try to loop Adam back on if he can stay in. And I want to talk about a few things that bother me as well about this game. But we're going to take a quick break. Come right back on Locked On Badgers. Today's show is brought to you by our friends on Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest way to spice up your college football weekend. I've talked about it before. They have awesome player props, over under number of Skylar Bell yards, Graham Mertz passing yards. You can stack up to 5 players, individual parlays. Mike, who is a friend of the show, been on a couple times in our Discord, is always throwing out what he's playing on Underdog. And again, with Locked On, you have a great offer. If you sign up with our offer code Locked On, head to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with our offer Locked On. We will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 for free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store, Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate everybody helping making this community so incredible. Your team every single day. Let's keep going. I want to get a couple comments out there. I want to start with a couple things that bothered me. Let me know in the comments. One of the things that really bothers me, y'all, and let me know if I'm off base on this. I don't think they use Isaac Grendo correctly at all. They just run him up the middle. And the few times they get him on the edge, like that pitch off tackle in the second half, was kind of a power sweep. He needs to be on the edge more. And for some reason, they just treat him like a power back. And I don't think that's his game.
Get cute with your formations with him. Like, do a split backfield. There's nothing wrong with putting him and Braylon Allen in the backfield. And then you have the option of running a sweep with Garendo off the edge. But I don't understand. Like, I agree with you that if you're going to use him, you want to get him to the outside. You want to get him in space. I don't think he's great at running up the middle. He's not a guy who pushes the pile, great for a guy his size. He runs a little upright.
He does.
That's nothing wrong with that. It just means that he's not a guy you want to really bang between the tackles. But if he hits a seam, he's gone. Like, there's nobody. Legitimately, there's probably 5 players in the Big Ten that can run with him.
He's a track horse. He's not a snowplow, right? Mm-hmm. Like, get him on the edges. It's always surprised me how they use him, I guess is what I'm saying. Mark, I want to jump to you. You've been in the queue for a while. Then Jeff, Chris, TJ, we're going to get to everybody, plus a bunch of comments. Mark, if you're there, we'll love to hear your thoughts on the game. It looks like you're muted.
I'm on.
Nice. I love it. What's going on, my man?
I had a great game day overall by offense and defense. I think that as far as Isaac Grendo, I think they should use more in the passing game and like screens or more like roll routes maybe too. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate having him being on drag routes across the formation, because if he gets a step on somebody, nobody's catching him from behind.
I agree. Yes, and I think we need more sacks too from our defense. I feel like just get more sacks hopefully.
Yeah, it was good to see the pressure up front, though. I think it was nice to see that. We haven't had that in a few games, and to really see that front 4, front 3 getting pressure was really nice. And I mean, that's what's going to allow our defense to get that aggressive from behind.
Mm-hmm.
I legitimately think that we're a year away on the defensive side of the ball from seeing a lot of these plays pay off. We have a lot of youth, so there is something to look forward to next year. But I think that a lot of these guys developmentally just aren't quite there yet, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these situations where we either don't have pressure or guys are a step late. A lot of these guys are getting first-time reps. They'll get better at it. Their technique will get cleaner, and next year should be a very deep defense, because we're shuffling through a lot of bodies this year.
It's true, but I feel like we're not seeing. Oh, Mark, sorry. I was just going to say, it feels like we're not seeing a lot of those young players take big steps up.
No,
obviously, Nick Hogan was, to Mark's point, and I agree that the pressure wasn't, especially in the first half. I think the pressure wasn't there on O'Connell, but we didn't have Herbig, which obviously makes a big deal for this defense. Yeah. That's something we can get into. Mark, what were your thoughts on Graham Mertz today, man? What did you think of the passing game?
I think he had a great game, and hopefully he can keep it up and just keep turnovers hopefully at 0. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I thought he was really clean. There's a few plays he makes. By the way, Mertz has underrated mobility in the pocket. He's able to escape pressure and find some things. That little shovel pass Brett Favre-ish to Braylon Allen while he was scrambling, I thought was really impressive. I wish he would have ate it when he tried to pitch it to Isaac Grendo. Like, I think that's a pretty high risk. It
benefited us, but yes, it's not something I want to see him doing.
Yeah. Mark, thank you for calling in, man. Definitely appreciate it. Please continue doing it. Love that you're supporting the show.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to keep going. Speaking of a couple comments, thank you, Mark. And then we got Chris and TJ coming up. But let's hit a few more comments because we got a bunch of people. Let's see.
We'll make the correction first.
So what?
Skylar Bell's from the Bronx.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I thought he was from Connecticut.
One of your commenters. Nope.
Oh,
Bronx, New York.
My bad. Still East Coast, though. Right? That's still East Coast. Michael
It's
Lawson,
a little tougher in the Bronx than it is.
Great game. A little dull in the second quarter for offense, but the defense held their own. This is something I want to bring up, not just because of the second quarter. And Mike, thanks for the comment, man. Justin, you had a question, or you kind of had a concern about how we ran the offense down the stretch.
I felt like we were kind of all over the place with the offense in this game. I think we got up plenty, and it seems like we kind of stagnated in the second quarter, which was fine in a game like this where we got up. But we need to still be effective with what we're doing. We didn't have really many drives in this game after the first quarter that were long drives that actually, where we were consistent or efficient or able to execute. If you look at it in the second half, our scoring consisted of a 14-yard touchdown run by Braylon Allen off a turnover, and then a 54-yard run by Isaac Grendo. Bar that, we really didn't have a drive that ended up with anything.
Rashid, what do you think?
I would say that I totally hear what Justin's saying. I can live with the conservativeness in the second half a little bit if it was intentionally conservative, which don't really know if it was or if they were just, but because when you're up big in the first half, you're playing it, you've got a lot of games left. We don't want to put, how much more do we really want to put on film? I'm okay with being conservative as long as it's intentional and as long as when we need to be able to open it up, we can. I do see your point. I was thinking about it after you first mentioned it, and I think you're right. But honestly, I was okay with it. I wasn't really bothered by it too much.
I think what we saw today, a big part of it, quite honestly, was we had kind of a Jekyll and Hyde offensive line day today, where we have certain plays like Garendo's touchdown run, which is like, wow, that was incredible. Where's that blocking been all day? Followed by, as we talked earlier offline, a 3-man down line has 2 guys break through and sack Mertz on a play.
Yeah, that felt like just miscommunication, right? Like some of this feels like the offensive line. I'm not trying to make excuses, but you have an offensive line that's just been hurt and banged up so much this year. They've shuffled people around. Purdue just got him with a stunt. Garendo ran into a block. It just felt like it wasn't good. Obviously.
I don't disagree. But that's been the issue all season. It's been the lack of consistency with the offensive line. Like that's what's keeping this offense from just being a chugging machine. Because quite honestly, I think the passing game for the most part this year has been pretty darn good. When you look at it right now, Graham Mertz has 17 touchdown passes and 6 picks. You want to know who was second behind him in the conference for touchdown passes? That guy that threw 3 picks today.
O'Connell, yeah.
He had 14.
Yeah.
You could argue Mertz has been the best player offensively this year, which is wild. Let's get to some more comments quick because I definitely want to continue banging out comments. Let's see. Cold Stone has a couple comments here, which he's listened to the show a lot. Really appreciate it. I thought the run game really opened everything up today. And then he had a second comment. Did Braylon Allen put his foot in the dirt enough for you today, Ryan? I thought he was more decisive. Like we've talked about Braylon Allen.
Oh, he was most definitely was.
Dancing. I thought from the jump he was more decisive today.
It was clearly something that came up in discussions after last week's game, and that change was made, which is really good to see. And obviously a lot of his success was line play as well. They played better. I agree, not consistent enough, but consistently getting a little bit better. That's kind of what I see with the line. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was really aggressive and he put his foot in the ground and he knows he can do that and he ran well and it showed. So yeah, good comment by Coldstone.
Well, how many carries today did he have that were under 3 yards? Like
we averaged
2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we averaged 6.1 today. I mean, that is bolstered by a couple big runs, the Garendo run. But I just sometimes it's just a decisiveness thing. Like, I thought you could tell that he was throwing his shoulder a little bit more.
He looked like he was getting 4 or 5 yards on most of his runs. So he broke off the one big one, but he consistently seemed to be getting push versus some of the other games where it's like he would dance and then he wouldn't be able to get the shoulder down and then they'd gang tackle him. Like you'd have 3 people hit him at once and he'd go down.
All right, let's get Chris on the show here. Chris, what's going on, my man? Thank you for calling in.
Hey guys, got to watch the game today didn't get to go to Camp Randall, but was down at the terrace this morning into the early afternoon, then switched over to the Rathskeller with other Badger fans, watched a great victory for the Badgers today. I think that, I listened to the pregame or the preview show yesterday, and you called it. I mean, I think going into that, I was thinking that what really mattered was winning at Minnesota or winning against Minnesota here at home. That's how I felt about it. But I think the case you made yesterday about this game being really critical was really spot on. You convinced me of that. And I think this is one we're going to circle in the Jim Leonard era here at Wisconsin, which I think really begins in earnest with this win today. I guess that's where I'll leave it. There's, small things you could talk about, getting behind the sticks where the penalties continues to kill us. This could have been a much bigger win had those types of things not happened. Obviously, the officiating call, but overall, just got to be really thankful for a big win like this going into the bye week. And, everything else looks very winnable from here on out. So I think, as you said yesterday, this sets the table for success to finish out this season.
No, I appreciate it, man. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I completely agree with that this game was very important to this season. Like, I don't know what it means in the grand scheme of Leonard overall. Probably is a big deal in terms of him getting the job. And the reason I say that is because if we lose this game, it starts to look – you have to look at the season and say, if they lose today, it's very easy for things to go downhill in a hurry with this team. They needed to win today to kind of catapult things into like, okay, we are working towards that bowl game now. We're in a much better situation of where we need to go. So this is a big one. It's one of our last, home games of the year. They had to get this one. It's also probably, I think you can make the argument, the two scariest games that we probably have. I mean, Iowa's defense scares me, obviously.
I would say it's Iowa because it's Kinnick and it's their defense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The defense, I'm not scared of their offense. Like, we may lose to Iowa,
it might be 3-0.
10-7,
9-6.
10-7
no,
because
Iowa,
their defense is going to score a touchdown on us.
I was going to say with Iowa be 4-0, they'll have two safeties, but no, I first of all, Chris, man, thanks for calling in. I agree. Like, I know, well, you're agreeing with me, so I agree with you agreeing with me, I guess is a silly thing for me to say. But just going into the bye, this also, by the way, this wasn't a game where they limped to victory, if you could. Like, this is like a statement to me. I think you go into the bye now, if you're the Badgers, if you're a Badger fan, or if you're a player in that locker room, and you just made kind of a statement like, listen, we're kind of back now. All right, we're not all the way there. We're not going to have the season we wanted to have, but we just pumped a team that won 4 straight. So I'm pretty stoked about the effort here.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about the fork in the road that this game represented, and it's exactly we took the right turn, and if we can keep up with this, it just brings a lot of momentum into the end of the season, makes us bowl eligible eventually, and then that's the kind of energy we can take into next season as well.
Yeah, they need those practices with this team.
Yeah,
they need the 15 practices to get ready for next year. I don't care what the bowl game is, but I do think that this is honestly a showcase season for the Badgers. Yeah. Jim Leonard gets the opportunity to showcase the remainder of the year what Wisconsin football can be based off of what he has in-house right now, which is why when I get frustrated with the offense and stuff like that, I look at it and I'm like, you're a lame duck coach right now. You need to do anything you can to make this team look as promising as possible moving forward for recruits, because regardless of picking up more guys the remainder of the season, you also have to hold on to the guys you have. And I think
be a battle for someone.
Yes. Yeah. Tretch is in Oregon this week. I'd love nothing more than have him watch us and be like, hey, they're going for 250 plus every week in the passing game.
Hey, Chris, I'm going to get TJ on the call next. Thank you so much for dialing in, man. I really appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. All right, TJ, we're going to get been on, I think, just about every reaction show now, and I get tons of good feedback when TJ comes on. People really enjoy it. Also, really quick, Zach Bartz, who has commented a lot on these shows, says the same kind of thing that Chris was just saying. Great start to basically a great way to build momentum going into the bye. Totally agree, Zach. All right, let's get TJ on the show. TJ, my man, we feeling better today?
Yeah, definitely. Because Purdue, I think they're pretty good. Defense played well. I think it really showed that we were really missing Smith and Clark in that back end. They played well today, and offensively we played well. The wide receivers showed up, and offensive line was much better today, even though they had penalties. But overall they were better, and I think we should really move forward now. And I'm thinking we're starting to see like how things are. Like with Paul Chris, we kind of got the samples, like the floor and the ceiling, and so now I think we're sort of going with Leonard. Like, okay, we know what we can be if we don't play well, and that's I think what was last week. But if we really play well, we know what we can be also. And we're seeing these dominant wins now.
Yeah, I feel that's a really interesting view. I kind of look at this team and I don't quite know what we're going to see on the offensive side of the football going forward. I'm very curious in the offseason to find out if Bobby Ingram's going to be retained, and if not, what the thought process going forward off of Bobby. Do we have a change in philosophy in terms of is it going to be more of like a power spread offense or what? I think we're going to still stay run game, but it will be very interesting to see what we choose to do going forward and what Leonard legitimately thinks of Ingram as an offensive coordinator.
That's a big question. Yeah,
it is.
Rajiv, I want to kick it to you because I think, TJ brings up a really good point. Leonard's had 3 games. 2 of them were kind of statement wins. Like, I think TJ's point was we've seen the ceiling raise a little bit here because I'm not trying to dance on, I've said it before. I never tried to dance on Paul Chris' grave, but we aren't dropping 35 on Purdue with Paul Chris. We aren't blowing out Northwestern with Paul Chris this year.
Yeah, when we talked about this, after the firing, it's that change in mentality that we're seeing here now, right? I mean, and that's what Badger fans have been desperate for, is a little bit of fight, a little bit of action, and kind of that killer instinct. Even today in the Discord, there were some discussions about how we need to keep our foot on the gas constantly here. We're up 21-0. We need to keep our foot on the gas, but seeing those kind of big statements, obviously it's weird after what happened last week to see what happened against Michigan State, but. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we need to see every single week. And if you look back, over the last 10, 15 years of Badger football, we've had a lot of those wins where we've come out here, we've dropped 40, 50, 60 on teams that we should beat. And all we want to see is beat the teams we should beat and beat them well. And that's what we saw today. I mean, we talked yesterday about whether or not we should have been favored, and I still think we shouldn't have been. But hey, listen, clearly we were wrong, and that's okay.
Yep.
And I mean, the thing is that like, when you're going to have those games against the Ohio States that are just unwinnable, right? And that's okay. But when you have the games that you can win, you need to do them with vigor, right? You've got to get after these teams, because if you don't, you're going to lose some of these games because there's a lot of good teams in the Big Ten.
That's the point I was actually just going to make. This is a game that had all the earmarks of being a game that we're up, say, 24-3 at the half. And the second half, we pack it in and get super conservative. And this game is tied suddenly at the end on that last touchdown.
Or we win 24-20, but it's like a nail biter down the edge.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. It's like Purdue has the ball, and we have to withstand them pushing it down the field to win. So, yeah, those are the type of games that putting points on a team avoid. Like, it's not necessarily an offensive philosophy thing. It's more of a, what is your philosophy in terms of how you handle a team? You beat them until it's without a doubt. Just get the game over with. And then at that point, if you're up 4 touchdowns, then you can take your foot off the pedal a little bit.
TJ, where are you at on Jim Leonard now? I don't know if I've ever actually asked you that.
I believe that unless he just pulls a stinker, in these last couple weeks, I think it's going to be his job. Right now, it's his job to lose.
And lose by 40 to Nebraska.
Yeah.
That would count as a stinker.
That'll cost him.
But I mean, I think we look way better than the start of the season, which shows that there is definitely a change. I think they should keep Bobby Ingram because I think it was obvious he was being held back by Paul Chris. And but one thing for next year that I really do want to see, I like Clondiff, but I just feel like there needs to be like the next, how we had Ferguson. He was just a beast in the seams, and we had Fumagalli. He was really good. I don't know if Clondiff's gonna be that, especially those 2 injuries on his legs. Yeah.
We have a guy, somebody to look forward to at that spot, and Jack Pugh is probably the guy that they're going to be looking at, I would assume, next year. He's a redshirt freshman this year, but athletically speaking, he's probably the most athletic tight end we have.
Also got injury problems, though, once again. Yeah, for sure. Now, that's a great point. And Tom Nesis, who, again, supports the show for a long time, he's bringing this up. He said before this game, hey, this is a big test for Coach Jim. See how they would bounce back. They did. Big feather in the cap for Leonard. And I think that's a key point here. This is all a big addition for Jim Leonard. And, again, you beat a team that is coming in with potentially the Big Ten West. Like, Purdue's playing for a lot. Purdue's playing for way more than we are.
Yep.
Like, this game meant a ton to them.
They were tied with Illinois. And they had a head-to-head yet to come. So
yeah, we beat them up. Like, it looked like we were playing for the Big Ten West. And again, a lot of that goes to coaches. The players were ready. They were fired up. TJ, man, I really appreciate it. I'm going to bang out some comments. But as always, you are always most welcome to join in, dude. All right, let's keep going. I want to hit some comments up really quick. Zach Bartz, if we keep Ingram as an offensive coordinator, let him coach tight ends like he did in Baltimore and hire a full-time quarterback coach. May not help Mertz, but could help Bill Burkett. So I wanted to put this up and then I want to kick it to you guys, and let me know what you guys think in the comment too. This is one of the things I always was frustrated with Paul Chryst, how he never really had an actual quarterbacks coach. And I think that really hurt Mertz. I think it's probably hurt the quarterback play in general. And Ingram's not that guy. Ingram's a tight ends receivers coach in Baltimore. I really agree with this statement. I think you got to find a way to have more of a quarterback development pipeline on the staff.
In my opinion, if I'm going to be doing that, I want whoever's the offensive coordinator being my quarterback coach. In all honesty, I want them to be tied together enough that I know that the mindset is the same, and that's why I think it should be the offensive coordinator. So I don't really like the idea of bringing in another voice to put in that quarterback's head that may not always be the same as what the offensive coordinator is looking at.
I agree with Justin. I think that the two people that need to be super connected at all times throughout the game, throughout practice, is the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. And the closer that relationship is, the more successful the quarterback is. So I 100% agree with that. I think TJ made a comment about how he wants Ingram back next year. I think that's the real question. I mean, do we not? I mean, and every game I'm so focused on watching play calling because that's what's getting, we're getting a kind of a look into what this might be next year. And it'll be interesting because slowly but surely Jim Leonard's philosophies are slowly kind of permeating down into different departments and the different avenues of the game. And the question is, what does he want? And we've talked about this before. We don't know, but it's going to be really interesting to see the next few weeks what changes. Every week, what changes, because that's going to show you what Jim Leonard is doing every single week. Because as he only focused on the defense first, now he's going to start putting his hands in different things. And that's what I'm really looking for. And then will the offense change much, or will it kind of stay the course that we are on now? Maybe he really likes what Ingram is doing because his handcuffs are off. So I think that's the most exciting thing about what's coming is what we're going to see.
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity here for growth yet with Ingram too. Like we need to take into account that realistically, this is probably like, if I was going to say how I would view him in that first half of the season under Chryst, I would give him credit for half a game for each of those games because he was probably getting to call roughly half of the plays in those games,
if not less.
Yes. So now he's only had 3 games where effectively, he's just doing whatever is the thought in his head, which completely changes. He's going to have some growth from this now that he's seeing what's working, what's not working, why to set up certain things. I think we're seeing that he has a pretty good knack for the passing game when he really dives into it. I think the running game, it's hard to tell because we've honestly been all over the place with our offensive line in the run game. And it's hard to pin any of that on the offensive coordinator because it's been consistently subpar.
Yep.
Well, and to that point, and then we got to take a quick break, and then I want to go through and just finish off with some really good comments in this comment section. I definitely want to try to get to everybody. We're going to bring Adam back on to kind of work through some comments. But on that point, I do want to just point out that I think, Justin, you're on to really something here with, this is not an easy situation for Bobby Ingram either. This is not the situation he came to Wisconsin to do, right? He was going to coach under Paul Chryst. A lot has been put on his plate very suddenly. And I think at times, certainly I'm probably guilty of this. We expect instant responses and instant reaction, when in truth, this is a growing season for him as well. First-time offensive coordinator, first-time quarterbacks coach, and now suddenly the offensive-minded coach that hired you is gone. So maybe that Michigan State game is just kind of a learning mulligan. And I thought he did a good job this week getting Mertz, as Rajiv said, out on the edges. So I want to take a quick break, but Justin, I definitely think you're onto something there. Seek Nayag, I'm probably mispronouncing that, asked what percentage of Power 5 teams do not have a quarterbacks coach. I have no idea. When I say quarterbacks coach, what I'm really talking about is a guy who has experience coaching quarterbacks, some type of background there, not just like I think Ingram was a good hire, but I was almost thinking he would be a tight ends coach, not the quarterbacks guy. So that's really what I mean. You can give anybody the title of quarterbacks coach, and I'm not saying Ingram's doing a bad job, but I think you got to find someone a little more established there. We're going to take a quick break and come back with a bunch more comments. We're going to bring Adam back on, finish up there. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in today on Locked On Badgers. All right, appreciate everybody tuning in. Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Again, we have Justin Jolka. We got Rajiv on. We're going to bring Adam back on. And Adam, really quick, where can people find your work?
Well, I'm kind of slowing down. I work for a local radio station, so I'm busy with playoffs up here in Minnesota. But you can find me on Twitter at Adam Hefty. I'm pretty easy to find. Okay,
perfect. And Rajiv, we talked about yours the other day. Justin, you famously said you don't do a lot on Twitter, so I don't want people to think I'm not putting those people out there as well. I just want to always give everyone an opportunity to show where people can find them. All right, let's get through some comments here. Finish up there. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Let's see here. This is Matt Ullman. Love the win. This has to be the most penalized Badger team I can ever remember. Constantly stalling the offensive drive by getting behind the chains. Adam, jump in here. Can you remember a more, I don't want to say undisciplined, but undisciplined Badgers team?
I think Wisconsin has built a program on disciplined play, and it's really kind of it shocks the system a bit when you see so many Badger penalties. I thought the first quarter with only that one holding penalty, it actually proved costly, but just one holding penalty there in that first quarter. We can't expect perfection because this is still a college football team. That's kind of what I think of with like Mertz. Mm-hmm. I think we look at it like Aaron Rodgers, and it's not going to be like that. Same thing with penalties. There's going to be mistakes, just as long as there's not too many of them in really dire situations.
I sort of expect this to be something that we see steadily improving every week under Jim Leonard. And it's what I want to see, and I expect it, and I think all fans should, because, we, like Adam said, we've been a team that's never been heavily penalized, and we can't continue like this. So if there's improvement, then I think, it'll kind of work itself out as the season progresses.
And that was one of the things we talked about with Leonard. How does he earn the job taking over kind of a broken program? One of the things we talked about is the discipline just has to get better. Yep. The attitude has to get better. Matt, thank you for the comment. Definitely want to get to a bunch more here. Timothy Palm, Justin, I'm going to kick this to you. Everything I was frustrated about to my TV and dog last week offensively was corrected. And then he goes on to say the refs were betting the DraftKings parlay, totally pathetic. I agree. There was some shenanigans here, But Justin, offense, we talked a little bit. You talked a little bit last week, Michigan State. Again, this feels more like the Northwestern game to me.
It does. We saw the RPO make a comeback. Interesting, used on a seam route to Jalen Franklin.
He lives
getting a play. Yeah, he is a lot. This shows when you get down to the fifth tight end, which, to be quite honest, not to be harsh on him, but Eschenbach's been a little bit of a disappointment for me this season. There's a lot of plays where it's like, he just doesn't seem quite linked in with Mertz in terms of what's going on the field. But yeah, that was a great catch by Franklin. That was big for me. I think that should be a staple of our offense moving forward. I think there's a lot to be used there, especially with our tight end game. There's ways you can kind of use it differently. And it's a very effective play to use against hyper-aggressive defenses. And for whatever reason, we don't like to use that one.
Really quick. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say really quick, Badger fans in the comments or even the people on the show here, how many people knew instantly that was Jalen Franklin when he caught it, or did it take you a second?
It took me when the announcer called him Jalen Franklin.
Right.
Like I was like, who is that?
I was looking at the back of his jersey as quick as I could to figure out what was going on there.
I knew it was him only because I saw him in the huddle in the camera shot before that pass. I'm like, oh, Jalen Franklin's in there, and then it's tossed to him. I'm like, oh, Jalen Franklin with a catch.
Really quick, how funny was it that Dan Orlovsky was like, Jalen Franklin, good player. I'm like, bro, you've never heard of that dude. Stop it. Like, stop it.
I do love that Dan Orlovsky called out the refs a lot, which was really nice.
I agree.
I also like the other announcer giving him a hard time about the Grateful Red.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know they were called the Grateful Red. First time in Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Big Ten, buddy. No, I agree, though. It was cool that he was definitely critical of the referees at points that was warranted, because too often announcers play the I have to stay in the middle game. No, those were terrible calls. He called it out. But listen, bro, you don't know who Jalen Franklin is. I'm not.
Well, even with penalties that were pro offense, like even the pass interference on, I think it was Alexander Smith. Like, that wasn't pass interference. Normally those quarterbacks, they're all,
He's like, I'm not really sure. That's not really pass interference.
No.
I thought he's pretty on point there. Uncultured Barbarian. This team is very Jekyll and Hyde. I like them not falling apart down the stretch and winning the game. I hope JL gets the job full time. Uncultured, as always, thank you for the comment. And this is kind of what we talked about, Rajiv, you and I, heading into the bye. If they had to win this game, otherwise I think this thing could have fallen apart. So talk to me, like, what's your vibe right now? And maybe we'll kind of end on this. I got a bunch more comments, but we're already at 45 minutes, and I know getting people to listen for an hour is tough. And I appreciate everyone still we got 94 people watching right now. Really do appreciate it. But maybe I just can kick this around to all of y'all. Let's start with Rajiv. What's your vibe right now? How do you feel about the program's momentum?
I feel like I did after the Northwestern win. I'm excited, but I also feel like it is very Jekyll and Hyde. And so the way I feel about the program is, let's get as many wins down the stretch as we can, but let's more importantly see improvement, not only in penalties, offensive line play, but play calling, coaching. Like, let's see improvement holistically around the program. And that'll really kind of kickstart us into next year. It'll definitely put us in a position where Leonard is going to be the guy, which I've said many times that I want to happen. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have a couple wins in a row, so let's have the bye. I think it's Maryland at home next, right? If I'm not mistaken.
We got 5 Maryland at home.
Yeah. So then, that's another on the other side of that bye. What are we going to do? But yeah, I want to see the consistency, and I want to see the performances. We talked about it yesterday too. It's all about performance as well as results. And, the more we see come out of the people that we have sets us up for future years. Let's become bowl eligible. Let's get those extra practices. Let's have a good bowl game, finish strongly, and we'll see what next year can bring. But I still have a level of excitement because we have a new coach who I'm now, as I mentioned, slowly kind of seeing things join kind of his touch on the program. So yeah, it's a lot to be excited about.
I'm really looking forward to this, honestly, this bye week, because it's the first time the offense actually has some time to do some install if they want to. I know we had the RPO that was added in those games, but it's possible that we're not using it as much as we'd like because there's not a lot of variations that we have. And they want time to, actually put some more things in there, some more wrinkles into things. I think it'll be interesting to see what we see going forward. I actually feel pretty good about the staff. I still don't know what's going to happen with the offensive side of the ball. I think there's some things there that we see that we look really good one week, and then the next we're a little off, or we'll look really good for parts of a game and then be off. The offensive line, I think this next week has to be really drilling the fundamentals with them and being like, hey, we got to clean this stuff up. You guys are leaving way too much yardage on the field with all these penalties.
Adam, where are you at with the momentum?
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic, and I'm with Rajiv with that one as well. I feel like this is a big spot for the program, obviously, and I like what it's looking like. Jim Leonard really really looks like he knows how to command a room, and that's really good seeing from the outside. Paul Chris, great guy, nice guy. I'm sure his players respected him, but Jim Leonard just seems to have a different aura to him.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really well said. I think cautiously optimistic, both kind of you echoing what Rajiv was saying. Justin, you said something kind of similar in a way. I think that's very well said. We've seen 3 data points, right, from Jim Leonard as a head coach. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. To me, that means you are moving forward, right, by definition. So we have to continue seeing it. But what we've seen so far, and I think, Adam, you were the first one to kind of talk about this. If you had said the first 3 games that Jim Leonard would result in 2 kind of dominating wins and an overtime loss on the road, I think we would all take that and say, okay, yeah, that seems like he's probably riding the ship and we got some wind in our sails. I think that's 100% true. So I'm very excited about that. I want a couple more things really quick that I just want to hit on. I don't know what happened. I wish I could go back and look. I'll go back and look at it, but I don't think we'll figure out what the call was. That inside quarterback dive with Graham Mertz in the third quarter.
That had to be a miscommunication.
It has to be a miscommunication because, listen, if there's any
no way we're
sediment
calling him
with the only quarterback on the roster with any experience, listen, and if you're Graham Mertz, you can't. You have to be. I'm sorry, you got to be smarter than that. You got to just take a knee. You can't get hit by a linebacker and hurt your ankle, get it wrapped up. There can just be no unnecessary hits on the quarterback. Is what I'm saying. Because without Mertz, the rest of this year is. I'm sorry, it's toast. No offense to Miles Burkett or Marshall Howe, the walk-on quarterback. So there was that was interesting to me. And then the other thing, TJ mentioned this, and I think Justin, you mentioned it, but I don't think we really talked about it. Getting Alexander Smith back is like getting, again, the ace of a pitching staff back. And now it bumps Jay Smith down to your number 2 pitcher. It bumps Dort down to your number 3, Hallman to your number 4. He made such a big difference today against a really good passing team. I don't know if we've emphasized that enough.
He's really impressive. He was effectively in the receiver's jersey, every guy that he was covering.
Yeah.
Like it was just all over them.
I mean, it was so nice to see every time O'Connell released the ball, you just kind of wonder, where are we going to be? And the fact that, by the time the camera panned over, you saw Alexander Smith right up on Jones, either whether it be interfering or not interfering or making a good play. I mean, it was nice to see that. I get this like fear every time I see a long ball,
right?
That these guys going to be wide open, and he wasn't. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked a lot about the secondary and how bad they were last week, and obviously having Smith back is huge. And yeah, credit to him. They did a great job out there today. I mean, look, we said it before. I'll say it again. Purdue scored 24 points and really only 17. That's a win. That's a win.
Yeah, they dropped 40-something on Nebraska. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with moving everybody down, putting them in a position to succeed. I think Ricardo Hallman has a lot of talent. He's young.
He's not ready. Yeah.
Yeah. He got beat bad against Michigan State. I put in the Discord that I was hoping he would get another shot at it. Get up, get after it again, because we cannot let him get down on himself and get the yips, because he has a lot of talent, and I was hoping he would get another shot, and it looks like he did this week.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we're going to wrap it there. Again, I have a bunch more comments, guys, that I didn't get to, but we're at 52 minutes, and quite frankly, Again, it's hard for me to multitask everything. So if you didn't get your comment in, it is probably my fault, for starters. It could also be we get a lot of the same not same, but same variations of comments talking about, Mertz or offensive line or penalties. So sometimes I just try to pick one out of that group. So don't feel like I'm trying to not put you up here if you put your comments in. I do want to say thank you to everybody who made a comment, everyone who's watching the show. Appreciate y'all so much. Everyone who jumped on, Rajiv, Justin, Adam, Mark, Chris, TJ, all y'all guys. I appreciate it so much. We're going to keep talking about the Badgers going forward. Probably hit you up tomorrow or the next day on Wisconsin. When you're done here, go check out Locked On Big Ten on the Locked On Podcast Network. Take you all around the Big Ten Network with host Nate Dickinson. He'll let you know about all the rivals we dislike and all the ones we really dislike and everything in between. With that, on Wisconsin, and we'll talk later.